Rolling, 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 rolling.
He's back home in Washington, D.C. How many cities in how many days, Roland?
6 cities in 8 days. Fort Knox, Kentucky, New York City, Houston, back to D.C., Lima, Ohio, back to D.C., Seattle on Saturday, and then back home. So
that's official. That's fly jocking. You got the cape.
Well, yeah.
Roland Martin, good morning.
Glad to be here. Glad to be back. Tabor 100. Thank you for inviting me to speak on Saturday there in Seattle. There's a huge initiative there. They're trying to restore affirmative action with a bill called I-1000. Well, folks, the legislature passed it. They're trying to actually bring it back, and so they're up. But we're going to have them on real soon talking about that because it's important. Of course, Ward Connolly, his folks are back trying to get rid. Yes, they're back, and so they're trying to beat them at the ballot box. So we'll talk more about that. Let's talk about Maryland HBCUs today, Tom. The governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, has said, "Here's my final offer." $200 million over 10 years to settle a long lawsuit in Maryland when it comes to equity and funding of HBCUs. I'm sorry, that offer's a piece of crap. Joining me right now is Kristen Clarke. She leads the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. Kristen, how long has this lawsuit been going on?
We have been fighting this case for 13 years, but the history really extends far beyond that. Maryland, throughout its history, knows well that they've made a dual system of education in Maryland, one in which they funded generously the traditionally white schools and universities in Maryland and completely disregarded and abandoned the HBCUs. And throughout the 1970s, 80s, 90s, Maryland actually took a step back and actually looked at the situation and agreed that they needed to take steps to fix the problem. They even adopted a plan to make HBCUs equal and on the same footing as the traditionally white schools, and they didn't do anything. So finally we had to sue them. And we are 13 years in. A court has found that Maryland violated the law because of its shameful history. And now we're at the point where we need the governor, Larry Hogan, to put a real settlement offer on the table that can address the history, remedy the harm, and bring HBCUs to the place where they should be today, and he won't do it. And so we are fighting.
So I'm trying to understand. Okay, so he's the governor's proposed this. But Maryland has a Democratic legislature. Like right now, there are 32 Democrats, 15 Republicans in the Senate, greater than a 2/3 majority. So why can't the legislature actually propose the necessary funding? Why just the governor?
That's exactly right. And Maryland actually has an African-American woman, Speaker Adrienne Jones, in place. Mike Miller is the senator. He's the president of the Senate. And so all of these people should
and a black lieutenant governor.
Stepping up. That's right. So I'm glad you're flagging that. We need officials at every level in Maryland to do the right thing. Time is running out. 13 years into this fight, and we're now at the Circuit Court of Appeals, and they told us, you all go and mediate this and settle this, because the writing is on the wall, and the state will not do right by its HBCUs and the people of the state of Maryland. Governor Hogan, says my final offer is $200 million.
That's about
over
a third.
10 years. Yeah, that it's not enough. There was a similar case in Mississippi about 20 years ago.
Shout out to Alvin Chambliss, who the lawyer of that. Yep.
Yeah. And the state of Mississippi, which is a far poorer state than Maryland, settled that case 2 decades ago for $516 million. If you translate that into today's value, it's $791 million. It shows how laughable Governor Hogan's $200 million settlement is. So you're exactly right, Roland Martin. Today is the day where Governor Hogan, Speaker Adrienne Jones, the president of the Senate, Mike Miller. All of these folks should be, around the table today putting together a meaningful settlement offer. It should not be a dollar less than what Mississippi put forth 2 decades ago. It's time to put this to rest. Our hope is that we will reach the finish line, get a meaningful settlement in place for the state's HBCUs, and then have a roadmap in place that can show how we fix other struggling HBCUs around the country.
So again, I'm trying to understand this here. So again, let me say this again. Democrats control Maryland's legislature. The legislature can actually remedy this without the governor putting something on the table. And if he vetoes it, they can always override him. And so
what's the problem?
We need people today to reach out to Speaker Adrienne Jones and tell them that the legislature needs to do the right thing, because you're exactly right, Roland. It is in the legislature's power to adopt a bill today with a meaningful settlement offer, and then let's wait and see if the governor overrules it. He shouldn't veto it. There is a federal judge here that says the state has a shameful history of segregation and they violated the law, and it's time for everyone in Maryland to do the right thing by its citizens.
How much is a meaningful
massive
settlement?
protest? Has there been a mass protest in Maryland? Black folks?
We need a protest. We need people out at Annapolis, Maryland. We need people on the phones. We need people making noise today. It is disgraceful what's happening in Maryland. The governor needs to do his part. The state legislature needs to do its part. And the people of Maryland need to rise up.
How much money would be meaningful?
Again, let's look at what 2 decades ago, Mississippi resolved the same case for over $500 million. At bare minimum, the state of Maryland in 2019 needs to put forth a settlement offer that matches what Mississippi did.
No. You said the Mississippi offer was $516 million, but in today's dollars, it was what? That equates to what?
$791 million.
Right. So, Tom, we want $800 million. I'm gonna round it off.
And
where does the number's 800? The number's $800 million.
Where does the $577 million come from?
So that is what Mississippi paid 2 decades ago. They had 3 HBCUs in that state, and a very similar facts. The state found that they had a history of desegregation. They maintained a dual system. They treated their HBCUs woefully. And with 3 HBCUs, they put forth $577 million to bring those HBCUs up to par with the traditionally white schools.
And there are 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland.
Right. Exactly. So if we take it a step further and adjusted that number, Roland, that $791 million, and adjusted it for the fact that we're talking about 4 HBCUs in Maryland, we're talking about $1 billion.
Okay, we want $1 billion. I mean, look, at the end and Tom, here's the piece about this lawsuit. HBCUs had programs that the majority of white schools didn't have, and so white students were going to the HBCUs to major in those fields. The white schools saw that, created the exact same programming, and guess what happened? White students went to the white universities. Therefore, exactly harming the HBCUs from getting the resources, the buildings, the research dollars, all those different things. And that is really one piece of this lawsuit. And so,
and
Governor
something
Hogan
has to be done today.
Today. One thing that people can do today is pick up the phone now and call Governor Hogan, 410-974-3901, and then reach out to the Speaker of the House, Adrienne Jones. It is time.
Hold on. Adrienne Jones is 410-655-3090.
Thank you. Speak up, speak out. HBCUs deserve adequate funding.
$1 billion. That's what they need. Not $200 million over 10 years.